The Arizona sun was ruthless that day, dry, sharp, and blinding. Jordan wiped the sweat from his brow as he stepped out of the grimy gas station restroom, expecting to see the familiar blue sedan where he'd left it. But the lot was empty. His eyes scanned the horizon, once, twice. His heart stuttered. The car was gone. So was Lily. At first, he chuckled nervously, thinking maybe she was pulling another one of her twisted tests, the kind she and her best friends Tara and Morgan always laughed about. "We just want to see how chill you can be," they'd say. But this didn't feel like a joke. His phone had been plugged into the car charger. His wallet was in the glove compartment. All he had now were his boots, a sun-bleached t-shirt, and the stomach-churning realization that he'd been left behind on purpose. For 6 years, Jordan had swallowed the passive jabs, the private jokes he never got, the way Lily always sided with her friends over him. He told himself it was love, that her smirks meant affection, that being the butt of every joke was the price of being part of her world. But now, standing alone on melting asphalt with nothing but silence around him, he finally saw it clearly. It wasn't love. It was a performance, and the final act had just played out. Without him. The gas station was barely a dot on the map. One pump, a flickering "open" sign, and an old man inside who didn't even look up when Jordan staggered back in. He could ask to use the phone, call someone, beg for a ride. But he didn't. Not yet. He walked back outside and stared down the road, the heat dancing over the horizon like a taunt. A truck pulled in an hour later. A bearded man in overalls leaned out the window. "You all right, son?" he asked, his voice dusty and kind. Jordan hesitated, then answered honestly. "Not really. She left me. Took the car. Took everything. The man didn't blink. Happens more than you'd think. Hop in. I'll get you to town." Jordan climbed in, and for the first time in years, with no phone, no money, no plan, just the open road ahead, he felt a strange, unfamiliar calm settle into his chest. He wasn't abandoned. He was free. The ride into town was quiet. The trucker, whose name was Dale, didn't ask many questions after the first one. Maybe he'd seen it before. Someone broken. Not by accident, but by people. Jordan stared out the window, watching the desert fade into lonely stretches of asphalt and dried-out scrub. His hands trembled in his lap, not from fear, but from something deeper. A churning mix of humiliation and disbelief. How do you process being discarded like trash? By the time they reached the edge of a small town called Brookwell, the sun had dipped low, throwing long shadows across the streets. Dale dropped him off near a corner store and pointed down a block. "There's a shelter that way. They'll help you get your feet under you." Jordan nodded, murmured a thank you, and stepped out into the warm evening air. His boots scraped the sidewalk as he walked past shuttered shops and neon signs flickering to life. Every step made it more real. Lily wasn't coming back. She hadn't turned the car around. She wasn't hiding somewhere with her phone ready to shout, "Surprise!" This wasn't a joke. It was a statement. And that statement was, "You're not worth taking with me." The shelter was an old church turned temporary housing facility. Faded paint, worn bricks, a cross half lit by a buzzing halogen bulb. Inside, it smelled like bleach, canned soup, and old sweat. A man behind a plastic window greeted him with a tired look and a name tag that read Roy. "You lost or just broke?" Roy asked, his tone blunt but not unkind. "Both," Jordan replied, voice low. "Left at a gas station, no phone, no wallet, no clue what to do next." Roy didn't flinch. "You got a name?" "Jordan." He was handed a clipboard and a pen. "Fill this out. We'll get you a bed tonight. Tomorrow, we figure out the rest." The cot was thin. The room was crowded. Bodies breathing heavy, some coughing, some muttering in their sleep. Jordan lay flat on his back, arms crossed over his chest, staring at the stained ceiling tiles. His mind raced. He saw Lily's face, heard the laughter of her friends, Tara's eye rolls, Morgan's snide comments, the way they always made him feel like an accessory to Lily's life, not a partner. He thought about every time he'd brushed it off, told himself it didn't matter, that love was about compromise. But this wasn't compromise. This was betrayal. Public, intentional, and cruel. He replayed the last day in his head. The car ride, the cold shoulders, the inside jokes he wasn't part of. The coffee that accidentally spilled on his lap. The way Lily giggled with Morgan when he flinched. The way Tara called him adorably clueless. At the time, he tried to smile through it. Now, each memory landed like a punch. By sunrise, sleep had never come. But something else had. Resolve. He got up before most of the others, brushed his teeth with a donated travel kit, and sat in the corner of the dining room, sipping bad coffee from a paper cup. Roy found him there, folded arms and furrowed brow. "You look like hell," Roy said. "Feel worse." Roy leaned against the doorway. "You want to sit around stewing, or you want to start digging yourself out?" Jordan blinked. "You got ideas?" "There's a diner 2 blocks down, place called Annie's. Not glamorous, but I hear they need a dishwasher." And just like that, the fire in Jordan's gut found a direction. He walked to Annie's under the rising sun. The sky was clear, but something inside him was storming. Every step was a reminder of what had happened, but also what he was going to do next. No more being a joke. No more being the guy who swallowed his pride for a smile that wasn't real. Annie's was exactly what he expected. An old diner with red booths and a layer of grease baked into every surface. Behind the counter stood a woman in her 60s with a hard jawline and sleeves of faded tattoos. She looked him up and down like she'd already heard the story. "Roy sent ya?" she asked. "Yeah, said you needed help." She tossed him an apron. "Dishwasher quit yesterday. If you can scrub, you're hired. Steal anything, you're out. Don't show up, don't come back." And that was it. No pity, no lectures. The days at Annie's diner bled together in a blur of steam, soap, and sweat. Jordan barely spoke. He didn't need to. The rhythm of labor spoke louder than any words. Scrub, rinse, stack, repeat. There was something honest about it. Something that stripped away the noise of the betrayal and left only the clean steel of survival. Roy checked in often, sometimes dropping off forms for Jordan to fill out. Replacement ID, social security card applications, basic state support. "It's a process," he said, "but the sooner you start, the sooner you stand." Jordan nodded every time. He didn't waste breath arguing or complaining. He just did the work. Annie, the diner's owner, barked at him daily, calling out orders, tossing him greasy pans like she was testing his limits. But she also slipped him a sandwich during double shifts, and once threw a pair of thick gloves his way without comment when she noticed his hands were cracked and raw. Little by little, his world started to expand. He found a rhythm. Wake up at dawn, mop the shelter floor before breakfast, walk to the diner, wash dishes through the lunch rush, take an hour off, then return for the late-night cleanup. He saved every dollar he earned, stuffing it in an envelope he taped under his cot. No nights out, no distractions, just focus. One Tuesday evening, after the closing rush, Jordan was wiping down the counters when Annie tossed him an old prepaid phone. "Customer left this behind a few months ago," she said. "Factory reset. It's yours if you want it." Jordan took it with hesitation. The weight of it in his palm felt like danger, but he needed it, just in case, for emergencies, maybe to track down a second job, or to check the shelter schedule. He charged it that night, sitting on the edge of his cot as the hum of snores and soft coughs surrounded him. When the screen lit up, he hesitated before opening the browser. Curiosity is a dangerous thing when you're trying to heal. He typed Lily's name. Her social media was public. The first post hit like a slap. A selfie of her and Tara at the lake with a caption that read, "Lost our fourth wheel somewhere in Colorado. Hope he found a ride." A wave of laughter flooded the comments. Morgan had replied, "Classic Jordan move. He probably wandered off to hug a tree or something." His jaw tightened, his stomach twisted. But he didn't comment, didn't message. Instead, he blocked every single one of them. Lily, Tara, Morgan, even Hannah, who hadn't come on the trip but had liked the post. He went to his contacts and erased every trace of them. He removed his old email, changed the name on the phone, then he turned it off and stuffed it in the back of the drawer beneath his cot. They didn't get to laugh at him anymore. The next morning, he worked harder than ever. Annie noticed. "You trying to kill yourself with a sponge?" she grumbled. Jordan just shook his head. "Just doing what needs doing." Roy saw it too. "Something shift?" he asked. Jordan nodded. "I stopped waiting to hear from people who don't care if I live or die." Roy grunted. "Takes some folks years to figure that out. Good on ya." As the weeks passed, Jordan applied for more permanent housing. He managed to land a spot in a transitional living program through the shelter. It wasn't much, just a tiny room in a halfway house, but it was his own key, his own bed. With a roof over his head and some privacy, he started sleeping better. He bought a small notebook and began scribbling down a list. Things I want. It was simple at first. New work boots, a second-hand laptop, real coffee instead of the burnt stuff at the diner. But slowly, bigger dreams crept in. A GED, maybe a certificate program in HVAC, maybe even opening his own food truck someday. It sounded impossible. But so did starting over with nothing, and he was already doing that. One night, while scrubbing pots, Annie wandered into the kitchen, leaning against the doorframe. "You ever thought about learning prep work?" she asked. Jordan blinked, confused. "Like cooking?" "Yeah, dishwasher's good, but if you're sticking around, might as well learn something else. You show up, you work hard. That matters." That night, Jordan stayed late to watch the cooks prep the breakfast. The rhythm of the diner no longer felt like survival. It had transformed into purpose. Jordan now wore a black apron instead of the stained dish gloves. His hands no longer raw from endless scrubbing, but firm from wielding a chef's knife. The promotion to line cook hadn't come easy. Annie had tested him every step of the way. "You mess up my eggs, you're back on dishes," she had barked the first morning. But he hadn't. He watched. He learned. He mastered. 3 months into his new role, Jordan found himself unlocking the diner before sunrise, the keys jangling in his pocket like tiny trophies. He prepped ingredients with a level of precision that made even Annie nod in approval, though she never said it out loud. The regulars knew him now. They asked for him by name. "Tell Jordan I want the hash crispy," one would call out. "Jordan makes the best omelets," another would brag to newcomers. The job, once a desperate anchor in the storm, had become a foundation. And that foundation was about to be shared. Her name was Ellie. She had started coming into the diner 2 nights a week, textbooks always open, earbuds in, and a nursing badge clipped to her coat pocket. She looked exhausted most days, hair tied in a loose bun, highlighters tucked behind one ear. Jordan noticed her first for how little she noticed him. Not in a rude way, in a "I've got battles of my own" way. No performative smiles, no judgment. One night she forgot her wallet. Annie was about to throw her out, but Jordan stepped in. "She'll be back tomorrow," he said, with a confidence he barely recognized as his own. Ellie did come back, early, in fact, and not just to pay. "Thanks for covering me," she said, sliding into the corner booth as he poured her coffee. "You didn't have to." "I know," Jordan replied simply, "but I wanted to." That night was the start of something fragile but real. They started talking between orders, about school, about second chances, about how both of them had been counted out. Ellie had a past, one she never detailed fully, but the haunted look in her eyes when she talked about mistakes and restarts told him enough. He never pushed. He didn't have to. They understood each other through the quiet moments. When she found out about his promotion, she celebrated like he'd won the lottery. "You're not just surviving anymore," she told him. "You're building." Those words stuck with him. More than anything Lily ever said, more than any apology she never gave. One night, over burnt toast and lukewarm diner coffee, Jordan shared the whole story. The gas station, the girls, the silence that followed. Ellie listened. She didn't gasp. She didn't try to fix it. She just said, "That wasn't about you. That was about how small they were." After that, he stopped carrying the old prepaid phone altogether. The drawer in his apartment where it lived stayed shut. The past didn't need checking in on. It was over. And more importantly, it wasn't relevant anymore. Because one Thursday morning, after the diner's pre-lunch lull, Annie pulled Jordan aside. "You've been running this place better than I ever did," she said, almost gruff. "Thinking about expanding, second location, smaller, but I want you managing it." Jordan froze. The same way he had when Lily left him in the middle of nowhere. Only this time, the fear didn't paralyze him. It energized him. "You serious?" he asked. Annie didn't smile, but her eyes softened. "You've earned it. You keep showing up. You work like the place is yours already. Might as well make it official." He told Ellie later that night, pacing around their tiny apartment with a kind of disbelief in his step. "Can you believe it?" he said. "Me, a manager, me." She looked up from her notes, smiled, and said, "Yes, I can, and you should too." That night, lying in bed beside Ellie, the ceiling fan spinning above them, Jordan realized he no longer measured time by when Lily left him. He no longer waited for closure or revenge or answers. He had created something better than any apology. He had reclaimed his own name, rebuilt his own life, and now he had a future on his terms. It was a Tuesday morning, quiet, except for the soft clatter of dishes and the buzz of the old jukebox in the corner. Jordan was restocking the register with fresh 20s, humming under his breath, when the bell above the door chimed. He didn't look up at first, figured it was one of the usuals coming in early for coffee and the breakfast special. But when the air shifted, when the quiet turned tight, Jordan felt it, a presence he hadn't sensed in years. He glanced up, and there she was, Lily. Shorter hair now, less makeup, shoulders slumped like she'd been walking uphill for years. She stood just inside the doorway of the diner he ran, his diner, looking like a ghost that had finally gotten tired of haunting from the sidelines. "Jordan," she said softly, voice barely rising above the clink of ceramic mugs. He didn't answer right away, just stood there behind the counter, wiping his hands on a rag, remembering the last time he saw her. A dusty gas station, an empty road, a fading sun, and nothing but the sound of gravel under his feet and the sting of betrayal in his chest. Now, she was here. "I heard you own this place," Lily said. "3 of them, right? That's amazing." Jordan nodded once. "It's work," he said simply. She stepped closer. "I messed up," she whispered. "Back then. I know. I was stupid and cruel and thought I was funny, but I've lost everything. My job, my apartment, and the people I thought would stick around, they didn't." He didn't move, didn't flinch, just listened, the way Ellie had once listened to him. "I'm not here to beg," Lily added quickly, eyes glancing at the floor. I need a fresh start, and I thought maybe you could help, just a little, anything." For a long moment, silence stretched between them. A younger version of Jordan might have broken under that silence, rushed to fix things, rushed to forgive. But not this man. Not the one who had built something from dust and dishwater. He turned, walked into the office, and returned with a small envelope. Placing it gently on the counter, he slid it across. Lily opened it slowly, eyebrows knitting in confusion. Inside was a single check for $84.60. Her eyes darted up, searching his face. "What is this?" "The price of a one-way bus ticket from that gas station to our old town," Jordan said evenly. 15 years ago, that's what it would have cost, to get back to you." Lily stared, stunned. "That's it?" Jordan's expression didn't shift. "That's all I owed you. The rest, I already paid. In loneliness, in pain, in rebuilding myself from scratch. I paid every day I chose to walk instead of crawl back. This is just the last dollar and change." She looked like she might cry, but Jordan didn't hand her a napkin. He didn't comfort her, because he didn't need to, and she didn't deserve it. "I'm not angry," he added quietly, "not anymore. But you don't get to be part of this, of what I built. This place, these people, my life. It's mine now. You left me, empty, and I filled it myself." Lily tried to speak, but no words came. Instead, she tucked the check back in the envelope, nodded once, broken, humbled, and turned to leave. He watched her go, her reflection catching in the front window one last time. She didn't look back. The bell above the door jingled once more, and just like that, the past walked out. A waitress, Amanda, one of the younger ones, approached hesitantly. "That someone you know?" "Used to," Jordan replied. "She was just settling a debt." He didn't say more, didn't need to. That night, Ellie met him at their home with the smell of garlic and basil wafting from the kitchen. Their daughter had drawn something wild and colorful on the fridge, and their son was busy crashing toy cars on the living room rug. "How was work?" Ellie asked, her eyes warm and knowing. "Full circle," Jordan said, kissing her forehead. "It was the kind of day where you realize the pain actually had a..." Jordan stood at the porch of their new home, coffee in hand, the sunrise painting soft gold over the rooftops. Inside, Ellie was humming to their daughter, braiding her hair for school, while their son shuffled sleepily around looking for his shoes. The quiet buzz of family life, a far cry from the silence of the gas station where it all began, was now his daily soundtrack. It had been years since Lily and her friends tried to re-enter his life, hoping to prey on old guilt, but that chapter had ended the moment he handed over that $84.60 check, the price of his closure. They walked out of the diner just as they had once driven away from that gas station, only this time he had control over the goodbye. Looking back, Jordan realized the real transformation didn't happen in a single grand act. It happened slowly, in dishwater, in early shifts, in the trust of people like Roy and Jacqueline, and in every quiet moment Ellie chose him without judgment. The pain had sculpted him, but love rebuilt him. He didn't rise from bitterness or revenge. He rose by choosing dignity, honesty, and forward motion, even when it was hard. Lily's betrayal had carved a wound, but it was his own choices that stitched it closed. And now, as he watched his kids giggle in the backyard and Ellie pour him a second cup of coffee, Jordan knew this life wasn't built in reaction to pain. It was built in honor of healing. So what's the lesson? Sometimes the greatest revenge isn't a grand comeback or a dramatic confrontation. It's peace. It's living well, not to prove anything to those who hurt you, but because you deserve the kind of life where their opinion no longer matters. True power is walking away and never looking back, not out of spite, but out of self-respect. Jordan chose that path, and in doing so, he didn't just rebuild his life, he rewrote the meaning of strength. If this story moved you, drop a comment below. Have you ever had to walk away from something toxic? How did you rebuild yourself? Please like, subscribe, and share if you believe in the quiet power of personal growth and dignity. More stories like this are on the way.